Hi, I'm Adam, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can integrate Microsoft Azure DevOps, or ADO, with SpiraTeam from Inflectra. In the video, I'll be showing how you can write user stories in ADO, how they will seamlessly come across into SpiraTeam, how you can then use SpiraTeam to write the test cases, write the test steps, run the tests, and then push the bugs and other work items back into ADO. I'll also show you how to integrate other work items like tasks as well, where you can have tasks start live in ADO and then move seamlessly back into SpiraTeam. As a bonus, I'm also going to be showing you how you integrate ADO pipelines into SpiraTeam, so you can have unit tests running an ADO pipeline in a Git repository, how all that managed in ADO fully visible in SpiraTeam, and then when you run the pipeline, all the test results will flow back seamlessly into SpiraTeam, giving you full end-to-end traceability across the entire lifecycle. Let's get started.
Okay, let's go talk about integrating Microsoft Azure DevOps with Spira from Inflectra. In this video, I'll be showing you how to integrate these two products. And in the case of Spira, it will work equally well with SpiraTest, SpiraTeam, or SpiraPlan, any of the three editions. There are some slight differences in available functionality, which I will highlight, but you can use the integration with all three products. Now, this video assumes that you have already integrated Azure DevOps with Spira. To do that, you would go to the main navigation, go to data synchronization, and confirm that your setup is complete. There are other videos on our YouTube channel that talk about how to do the setup. This video is all about how you use them together. So you can see right away that this is integrated, it's connected here, and it's synchronizing every couple of minutes. And that's true for all the different plugins. We also do have integrations for GitHub, GitLab, and Atlassian Jira as well. So if you're interested in that, please watch those videos. So now the synchronization is set up, we will go into our Azure DevOps project. And the way this integration works is we can synchronize user stories or requirements, tasks, and incidents or defects. The user stories are synchronized in one direction from Azure DevOps. And so to start this process, let's go over here into Azure, and let's go into our boards, and let's go into the item, and let's create a new work item. So I'm going to create a new user story. I can also create an epic or a feature as well. Let's start with a user story, and I'll write it in a standard user story format. As a customer, I want to book a train between two European cities. That's my user story. In the description, I can add more information. This assumes that I am using an online travel platform. So we'll hit save. Oh, and I also want to make sure that the area is set, iteration is set. So I'm setting it for iteration. That's the version I'm going to be releasing this in. That looks good. Priority is 2. Maybe make it priority 1. Business classification is there. Yeah, that all looks pretty good. Maybe I'll put some acceptance criterion. The system needs to work. That's pretty good criteria. And we hit save. So that's been logged in Azure. Meanwhile, if I go back over here into Spira, synchronization is running every few minutes. Hasn't yet appeared. That's okay. So while that's running, I'm going to show you a few other things. That user story will come in from Azure directly here into Spira and will appear here at the bottom of the list. And we're going to go do some testing of that. Before that, though, let's also talk about some of the other integrations that we have. So inside of Spira, we have connected the source code repository also to Azure. So that means when I fix a defect or I want to implement part of this requirement, I can tag it with a particular source code commit that was related to. And that gives me traceability to my code. So over here in Azure, you can go over here to repos, and you can see the files. You can see the different branches. You can see the commits. And the other thing we've got here is we've got some pipelines set up. So I've got a pipeline set up, and I've actually got one of our sample integrations we have in Spira. So in Spira, we have a plugin for NUnit, JUnit, and all those equivalent XUnit type tools. And it basically it uses Python, and it reads the test results, and it can send the test results back into Spira to update the pass or fail status of a test case. So if you've got Selenium scripts or Playwright scripts or just unit tests that are written in Python or any other language, JUnit, NUnit, Jasmine, Jest, any of the unit test frameworks that can support the standard JUnit XML format, we can run this pipeline and get those results automatically to appear back into Spira. So we've got the code integrated, and we've got a pipeline integrated as well. So let's first of all look at the code. If I go over here into Spira, you can go to the code section under development, and you can go to source code, and you can see here, these are my code. This is the code that we just saw in Azure. If I go to the branch selector, you see we've got the different branches as well. I can then click on a piece of code. So this is actually the XUnit integration file that we're using. That's the actual source code with syntax highlighting. Go to the history tab. There's nothing very interesting here. We just added this. But if I go into my configuration file, that's where I did the configuration. I mean, looking here, I've got some other files. So there's various different things here. So there's lots of different files. You can browse them in different languages. You can see if there are any changes and the syntax highlighting. If I go to the commits tab, I'll see all the different commits that exist. And I can even see if they're tagged with a specific item. So here you can see I made a change and it's tagged with a test set in Spira. I click on that. You can see we actually integrated this particular test suite, and that's where we did it. So the code chain is made in Azure DevOps, will show up here in Spira. And if I want to see the difference in what changed, I can click on it, for example, and it will show me this was the commit, that was the file. And if I click on the file, it's a YAML file, you can see these are the changes. So Spira does include syntax highlighting, and it includes difference tracking. You can see the difference in this unified view, or if you prefer the left to right view, we have that as well. So the great thing is I can see all of my pipeline information here, and I can see all my source code right here in Spira. So that's really nice. Now let's go back a second though, and let's jump back to my that was doing that. The requirement has just appeared. So this is my new requirement that came in. So this is my user story in Azure DevOps written in the product backlog. And now I want to do the testing of it in Spira. So I go in here and I click on it. I need to build some test cases. So the customer wants to be able to book a train between 2 European cities. I could manually go into the test coverage and I could add some test cases. But since I'm running the latest version of Spira, I do have access to our new AI functionality. So I'm going to go over here and use the handy shortcut to create some test cases. So it's going to take my requirement name and description, and it's going to build out some test cases for me. And while it's doing that, just to note, if I go here back over on the left-hand side, you can see we've got the ID of the Azure DevOps user story. If I go into the attachments tab, we do have a link automatically added that takes me directly into Azure DevOps, a deep link into that item. So I can always navigate from Spira to Azure DevOps. It's created some test cases. They're right here. Hit refresh. These are my test cases. We're going to run one of those and log a defect. Before we do that, though, if I run over back onto Azure DevOps and I go to my attachment link, you can see right here, click on that link, brings up that item in ADO with a nice deep link. And if I had a comment here in ADO, it's going to add that comment back into Spira. Really nice and easy. So we've got my requirement. Let's go ahead and run that test that goes with it. So we've got some test cases. Verify the availability of train routes between the 2 cities. Let's click on it and have a look at it. This is the perfect test case. It's got 2 steps. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. So I'm going to assign it to myself as the system admin that I'm logged in as, hit execute, and now I'm running my test case. So I'm going to run the test case. Note that if I go to the release section, I can choose any of the Azure DevOps iterations or releases. If I choose one, depending on what I choose, you'll notice there are some builds. So when we do have CI events running in my pipeline runs, if that pipeline is tied to a particular build, release, and iteration in Azure DevOps, it will show up here. So that's good. I do want to do that. So let me tie it to this particular build. So we're testing a specific CI build on Azure DevOps for this release. And let's say we go to the first step, verify the ability of train routes, enter departure city, select the arrival city from the menus. And there should be Paris and Berlin. Okay, yes, that was there. And then check the date picker to ensure it allows a valid date. Well, let's say there was an error. I'm able to select the date because it only showed dates in the past. That's a bug. We'll mark that as a failure. Let's go to Instance tab and actually log a defect, though. We'll say date picker not showing up all valid dates. Cool. That's perfect. We'll say the priority of that is pretty high. Severity is high. Component is login. We can select the area path, login. I now hit the fail button. When I hit the fail button, it's going to fail this test step and this test case. It's also going to log the defect I just created over here. So I hit finish, and now I have a defect logged. Super easy. If I go to the test case section, you'll see we do have the failure right there. Verifying availability of the train routes has failed. Click on that test result. You can see it's first step passed, second step failed. They go into the test run section. I've got a detailed test run that shows me step by step what happened. And there's my linked defect. So let's go to that defect and click on that. And this is the defect in Spira, and that defect is now visible. So this defect contains the description, expected result, actual result. In this case, there wasn't a screenshot, but if there was one, it would show up, obviously. And if I go back here into my incident section, I can go in here and sit and check that. I can also click on that a second and notice that the ID has not yet been populated. That's because it hasn't yet synchronized and there's no attachment yet. That's correct. But if I go to the associations tab, there is a link from this defect back to the test run, and the original source requirement. If I go back over here into ADO and I go to the board section, work items, and I look for defects, I search by ID, it hasn't yet appeared, because when it does appear, it will appear in the top of this list because I'm sorting by ID or date. So we'll wait for that to show up. Whilst we're waiting for that to show up, let's check out one more thing, which is the pipeline. So if I go into Azure DevOps and I go to my pipeline, that was a manual test with manual results. If you've automated tests running, you could go in here and you could run the pipeline. And let's say I make a code change in my Git repo, that's going to automatically trigger the pipeline to run. But I can also go in here and just run it right away. And I'll just say run, and it's going to start running. And what it's doing is it's building my code, and it's actually running the unit test, which is going to then generate a unit test output file. And from that, it's going to basically then read that output file and send the results back into Spira. So that's what it does. And if you want to see what it looks like, we can go into the code. We've basically got a pipeline right here. It starts Ubuntu, and it uses our plugin for the pipeline to send the results back. If you're curious how to set that up, it's really easy. You go into pipelines, and you can go into the pipeline right here. You can go to edit, and you can see here we've got different tasks built in. And then there's a special task called export data to Spira. And that's the piece we're using that actually does the reporting back into Spira. Okay, that was running. It just finished. So if we want to go back over here into Spira, we go to our releases section, and you go to, say, iteration 1, and you scroll down, you will see there's different builds. That's what ran just now. And I click on it, you'll see the build just ran, and it was a pass build. The CI event passed. If there's any commits that were part of that, in this case, I ran it manually, so there weren't any. They would show up. And if I just scroll down here, you can look at some other previous ones. You can see we've got some test results that were ran in a build. If we go down here, we can see there was a commit where we actually made a code change. So anything that's tagged to this commit will be listed. I can click on it here, goes into the code repository, and you can see what was changed. So you've got full traceability of any code change, anything that happens in Azure DevOps is visible in Spira. And the great thing is, when that test ran manually and I logged the defect, that also gets pushed to Azure DevOps. So you can work with these two tools bidirectionally, hand in glove. And if I go into the defect section now, the defect is showing there. And once it synchronizes over to ADO, ADO will pick it up and will appear in the list of items. Super easy. As you can see, the little attachment icon has now appeared. And that's how you know it's synchronized, because that will show that the attachment has gone there. We'll click on it. And there's the attachment, which is a direct link, deep link again into Azure. Click on Overview. There's the ID of the item. And if I go right over here to my Azure DevOps tab, and then go back over here into my boards view, you'll now see there's a new defect at the top of the board, date picker, not showing all valid dates. Click on that. And you can see we've pushed the test results that are part of the defect into Azure. So I've got the name of the defect, the test result steps, description, expected result, actual result, the steps where it failed. I got to the second one that failed. And I can now in Azure now take action on it. So I can typically do what I would do normally, go in here and change the status to maybe active. I would assign it to someone to fix. So we can go in here and we can assign the item to someone who would then fix it. And then that will then update back into Spira. And then the lifecycle of the defect carries on. So we can mark it as active. And let's say we're going to assign it to someone. I'll assign it to me, save, maybe add a comment, say investigating. And that will update Spira with that comment. And then once this is fixed, assuming it is fixed okay, it will update the status here, and the tester can then go into here into Spira, and they can then either mark it as not reproducible, or not fixed, or closed if it is correctly fixed. And the two teams can work together: development team working in Azure DevOps, testing QA team and BA team working in Spira, and the defects are bidirectionally synchronized with both comments and all field changes. So there you go. That's Azure DevOps and Spira working nicely together on a typical project, and a little bit of AI thrown in there for good measure as well.